Pulsechain is better than you in every metric, and the reason people are going to be leaving you is because of your exorbitant in stake fees. It's all about competition, guys. He's just trying to get them to lower the gas fees or
But
go out of
Plumber,
business.
on that point, Plumber, earlier Famous mentioned something, and he was telling people, look how much Gwei you paid to end a stake like a year or so ago compared to today. And it's cheaper in Gwei, not dollar amount, in Gwei. You get it?
Well, yeah,
I think people are willing. Okay.
I never
I
understood.
think people are willing to lose the money right now. They're really dumping. They're dumping. I mean, I can understand if you had to, like, I remember sitting up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning going, oh, I wonder if I can get a lower fee. Let me go. Let me try it again. Let me try it again. But it's not that case. Right now, they know it's going to be, a lot more expensive this way. And I'm going to dump it. And if you have enough money, if you're, a shark or a whale and you have enough money, you're just going to dump it. You're not going to sit and wait.
Right, I get that. And I never, maybe somebody can answer this question I have. Every time I've ever talked to somebody about gas fees being so expensive, every time I always hear, oh, we want gas fees expensive. We want gas fees expensive, which makes no sense
No,
to me.
no.
So I get Gwei's down, but if your Ethereum's $3,000 in Ethereum, your gas fees are still effectively high. Whereas Pulse Chain is literally pennies to do the transaction because Pulse tokens are cheap. Why would you ever want your native coin to be expensive? It doesn't make sense to me because you have to use that native coin to make a transaction. I would think you would want those coins as cheap as possible, as often as possible, no matter what the way to get the transaction accomplished is. Am I wrong?
I think you're 100% right. I don't see any problem with that. Like, I don't see why you would, like I said, you're talking about waiting. It was different when you're waiting for, an hour or 2 hours, and maybe it's going to be lower at 3 o'clock. This is not dropping. This is going to be steady.
Right.
You're going to lose money. Yeah.
Right.
So I think you're 100% correct with that.
So even if it costs full 400 pulse to get the transaction done, what's that going to cost you in real dollars? Pennies, as opposed to
Yeah.
if you got to pay 400 Gwei in Ethereum to get the transaction done. That turns into real money. And the bottom line
Yep.
is the more small investors you have that can move in and out of trades in a cheaper fashion, the more it's going to drive the market. If you only have the whales that can afford to make transactions, you're not going to have many users. It's just like the stock market completely exploded when the small investor could go to Robinhood or they could go to Charles Schwab and they could make $2 trades on the stock market. The reason the market exploded was because trades were cheap. That's one of the
Yeah.
reasons.
Well, we haven't seen a cheap trade in a while.
Wouldn't we eventually have the same problem with Pulse Chain technically, when we get there, Plumber? So what happens then? Do we nuke it and start something else again and fork it?
Wouldn't
And what do you think
my
about
personal
that?
opinion is the native coin should be as an inexpensive coin. It should be used only for making transactions, not necessarily so much speculation. That should be saved for the coins that you trade on it with.
Are you saying to not trade and use it for leverage? What I'm a little confused.
No, as your transaction tokens. So you would want those tokens to be as cheap as possible. When Ethereum's expensive,
Mm-hmm.
screw them,
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying use it as leverage. I mean, it's just like, let's face it, you got to pay a fee to make a transaction, right? Well, don't you want the transaction fee to
Yes.
be as little as possible?
Yeah. You think it's going to climb?
I don't think it's going to go to zero.
That's different.
The nice thing The nice thing
Oh, go
about
ahead.
the Hex product, remember this, the nice thing about the Hex product is it's one of the only 2 coins that I know of that you can actually stake it, and then you can earn your percentage of the inflation, which to me is a good thing. You get first chance at the inflation. That's what the big bankers, that's why they love our current money system, is because they get the first hit, first off the tap of the inflation. With Hex, you get to be a part of the first tap off of the inflation. So my thought on this is everybody's dumping Hex. I'm a buyer on Hex, lock it up, and then I get a bigger percentage of the inflation because there's nobody staking anymore.
Okay. Are you an old school buyer of Hex? I mean, have you had it since, day back in the
No,
day? Do you have 555s?
no,
Do you know like what?
no. I
Okay.
bought Hex in October of 22 when
Okay.
it was 3.5 cents
So,
a token, but it was before
okay.
Pulsechain launched.
Okay. So for someone like me who's had it from, not quite from day one, but way back in the day when it was, and I've got 15 years and I'm over 50 now, the thought of even buying more just doesn't make any more sense to me right now. I mean, it's holding, and yeah, okay, I've already got those stakes and they're gone. What am I going to do with what I'm holding to make more money from right now? I mean, that's why there's a position that like using, Hex, buying NFTs, doing, other things, buying HOA, doing stuff like that. Like, there's no reason for me to even buy more HOA at this point. I mean, more Hex at this point. So, I mean, I can understand if you're trying to leverage down
I can't disagree with you
and,
there
and trying to,
because I'll be 57 in August myself, so I'm no spring
yeah,
chicken.
okay, good, good, good.
But I'm
So,
my original plan before eHex took a dip, whether Richard intended to kill it or not. My original goal was keep all of my eHex liquid, and when it hits $1, then I'm going to scrape the profits. That would be like a 33x for me. And
okay.
then all of the free tokens that I got when Pulsechain launched, those are the tokens that I'm going to stake for the future and hopefully be able to cash out when they're about $10 or $100 a token. And then
Wait, free tokens from HOA or from
no, when Pulsechain
what?
launched, we got all of our tokens
Okay.
copied over, right? So you got free tokens.
Right, right. You got a
Right.
copy.
That's
So what are you doing with all of that?
stake it and hold it long term.
So that's it. You're using this as if it's like a 401k.
Correct.
You're not doing anything with that. You're not doing anything with the liquidity. You're not doing anything with the value that you have right now without selling the
No.
coin.
No, because I'm a firm believer in time in the market as opposed to trying to time the market.
Okay. Whereas I'm somebody who's been, like I said, I was back with Richard back in the day when he was Top Hat Richard and, before when he first started his coin. And taking that amount and using that, like say putting in an HOA where I'm getting free drops all the time, where I'm getting stuff happening all the time, where I'm not selling my coins, where I'm just using it as leverage and I'm still making money and I'm using that income. I'm living off interest instead of just holding the
Okay.
HOA. You haven't considered doing something like that?
Well, I'm not
I
as
mean,
knowledgeable in the industry, but I've always been a little more conservative investor in the first place. And
okay.
to my mind, when I got into Hex, the average return for a stake was what, 38%.
Right.
Okay, now if you understand the rule of 72, that means your tokens double in less than 2 years. Coming
Hmm.
from traditional finance, that sounds like a really appealing, almost too good to be true investment.
Okay.
So I felt like that was good enough for me. I really don't need to be getting into hedron and all of these other things. I'm good. I just want to keep it simple.
Okay.
I'm not a crypto expert by any means. This was just something I did. a year and a half
Absolutely,
ago.
me neither.
What?
Right.
And I just felt like we'll just mint some tokens through staking procedure, and then wait for number to go up and scrape a little profit off and buy a motorhome and travel the country.
Oh, nice. So are you pulling profit then? Is that what you're saying? You're being able to pull profit?
No, I haven't touched anything yet.
Okay.
And the only downside is I was banking on EHEX maybe getting to $1 on this next bull run, and I was going to scrape some profits there to get me set in the right direction and hold my PHEX for the long term.
So you're talking about the end of 25?
No, whenever that would happen whenever it would get to a point that I could say, yep, I'm going to pull the trigger and scrape some profits. And everybody says, no, hold it forever. I'm like, what?
No.
Not when you're 55 years old. You don't hold it forever.
Exactly. So you're in the exact same boat that I'm in. Listen to what they have to say and thinking about if there's another way to use your money. Because I would never tell anybody, especially at our age, I would never tell anybody, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, make some moves. Never do that. I would say listen in instead of just sitting on it and just waiting. That's the only thing I would have to say.
Richard pretty much sold. I watched an interview with Richard with Rollo Tomasi, and I'm
Yes.
like, holy, because I always thought all cryptocurrency was just a win-lose proposition. I'm like, holy, this is a completely different token. This is a token that you can actually be your own bank. You can mint your own coins, tokens, and it's actually, and but the way he was describing it, I could actually see this over time becoming a competitor with Visa and MasterCard. So you can buy your groceries, but there has to be a stable coin. There has to be a network set up.
That's Crow.
What?
That's Crow. Yeah. The Crow. I have my Crow card, and that's exactly what I do. And everything that I have, I owe back on Crow, because literally I can live off the interest from what I'm making on my Crow card.
Oh, that's cool.
So you don't. Yeah, it's absolute, and I'm not losing. I'm not selling. I'm not getting rid of any of my T-shares, because believe me, I got T-shares. I'm not worried about that.
Cool.
I'm not selling my T-shares. I'm not getting rid of my T-shares. They're there. I'm talking about how to capitalize off of that. And what you're talking about doing is by Crow.
I've never heard of Crow. This is something new. What is?
Oh,
yeah,
really?
What is this? I've never heard of it.
Okay, so Kronos, they have their own credit card where you get money back off of using their card by staking, and it's the same type of thing. It's staking your Crow, so you can put your extra money that you have and getting money back onto Crow, and you're literally buying from there. They're trying to get.
Wait a minute. Are you holding it in your own wallet, or are you using them as a third party?
Yes, I'm holding it in my own wallet.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, here it is. So basically, he said numerous times, like, at some point of time in future, there'll be a parity between Ethereum, ERC20s and PRC20s. And even the EHEX is no different, right? So I believe that is one thing. And one more thing is, so let's say, like, if he said, like, HEX is much better than EHEX, right? So if it is better than EHEX, then why he didn't destroy it on Ethereum after the airdrop? Why he's continuing on Ethereum as well, right? So that is one more thing, questioning his tweet. So I believe the weekends will be, way dumped, and also as well as I feel like EHEX is the one that pumps much more than PHEX, Pulsex, everything at some point of time, where again people will. So this is the game theory have. So I thought of
Nice.
tweeting it at 20 cents, but I'll tell it now. So with the sack phase with Pulsechain and the Pulsex, what he did is, like, he shifted the sell pressure from hex, like EHEX, to the other coins like PLSX and Inc. So he shifted so much sell pressure from the actual, hex to these things. So the sell pressure is less, and now he's getting rid of weak hands at below a cent. So even the liquidity, right? So it is for EHEX, it's way less when compared to Pulse and every other RH coins. So there is lot of game theory on Hex and very low liquidity and a lot of less sell pressure. So everything giving me tick marks like green checks for EHEX than any other RH coin. So at some point I can see that by end of 2024, 2025, I can see a $28 hex or a $55 hex, which is a million% gain from the bottom. So that's what I see, and that's how it's going to play. But only EHEX alone, it's around a $1 million supply.
Interesting. By the time mine go out, I'll be on the situation that you just explained. Like the way the Fed is going, and they continue to debase the dollar. So it's just I prefer to be in EHEX than being on the dollar right now. You're like, I'll take this dip. Yeah, I'll take a half dip, add to my position, and wait. Compared to just sitting here on dollars and then expect the Fed to save my ass.
So you'll see they haven't sold anything. And then I posted the wallet from the African priest that's been buying like crazy lately. I'm wondering if he would start buying up X soon, because that would be crazy.
African priest. What if that guy decides to buy at 2 zeros and a 3? He loves those numbers.
Man. His wallet is down 60% right now.
Oh, he really?
That's impressive, because when it's that type of money, and you're losing like $3, $4, $5 million in a candle.
Ooh. It might be one of those situations where they just don't know it happened yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't sold anything since the 4th in that wallet, so it's not him. But his orders there are still one-sided. So.
Yeah, so he didn't sell anything.
Yeah, but those can get moved. I'm interested to see what they'll do with that liquidity. Will they just leave it there, or they'll move it down?
What if the African priest all of a sudden puts everything he owns liquidity-wise V3 under this guy, like half a penny? You know what I mean? To ensure that the price never goes above a penny, half a penny.
That would get anything.
Would be crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it would always be a half a penny cap.
Absolutely worthless. So I don't know why people wouldn't try to listen and do good things instead of poking the bear. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, the 08 could push EHEX to 0 for eternity if it wanted. And we got little prods from Richard, like, hey, maybe the market likes this one better. Hey, I'm not buying this one. But people are still thinking they're smarter than Richard or the majority of the community. It's not panning out, and it hasn't for a whole year almost. The problem is it was a lot of big names in Hexaco. That's one of the biggest problems, right? They said it's cheaper. It's not cheaper if it's going down. It's actually expensive. That's what you have to, like, is ink cheap? If it's going up to $300, it's actually dirt cheap, right? So if it does more X's than anything, it's the cheapest coin out there. So that's when you have to think about cheap or expensive. Which one gets you more X's? Forget about the price itself.
Exactly. Yeah, protect that margin. How cheap can you get it? How many X's can you make? That's the thing that gas just takes from us.
There's the liquidity pool that I'm pulling up on Hex from Ethereum. It says 180,000 liquidity and volume at 1.38 million. Like, man, that's like eight times the swaps compared to liquidity. That's a lot of fees.
Yeah.
It'll probably slow down though, right? It's a stampede. And then...
No, so Richard Hart, he tweeted so many times on EHEX to kill, right? So what I see is the rage. Just go and die. I will buy you at the bottom and make you to the skies, right? So that's how I see that. And, when you say something like, he said like there will be a parity between ERC and PRC, right? So that means even all the ERCs are valuable as PRC20s. And EHEX is also a, coin on Ethereum, right? So it is not something like nobody can make it dead. And if you see out of all Richard Hart coins, EHEX is the one which has, less sellers and less liquidity. So when these two match up, where the price will go. So I see the rage. So he's telling the weak hands to sell and go away.
No. EHEX is competing with Pulsex right now. So if you look at Pulsex, it's a lot cheaper than EHEX. So would you rather buy Pulsex or would you rather buy EHEX? Pulsex has no inflation. It's deflationary with this buy and burn on the DEX, and it's got the SAC wallet has been, as of like this past week, only buying Pulsex, and it exploded it back to SAC rate. So you've gone a 10x on your money on Pulsex, actually like 11x or whatever from the bottom, and it's being supported by a large community of Pulsex believers. Whether you believe they exist or not, people came into the Pulsex SAC and they've chosen Pulsex as their coin, and they're sticking to it. They believe in it. They believe in it more than I do. Let's just say it. I did SAC for Pulsex, but I had Hex before that. So whether you comprehend this or not, he made multiple coins, and the coins are competing with each other. And Pulsex itself can do better than Hex on Ethereum. Can it do better than the other Hex on Pulsechain? I don't know. But when you look at what people are believing and putting their money in, so far it seems like the Pulsex is giving EHEX a run for its money.
It's not like, so any coin, any token, right? Even if you see Doge, it inflates more than Bitcoin and Litecoin, and it doesn't have any utility, right? It's inflationary. So where that pump is coming from? So irrespective of the functionality, I mean the utility, right? So it doesn't matter. So the only a coin pumps is based on the supply and buy and sell walls, and how much it's going to get the injection like money to make it pump. So only these factors I see. And when you compare between Pulsex and EHEX, so I see right now EHEX is the more valuable, right? So I don't see, so inflationary, people like inflationary, like, this is kind of, Hex is like a kind of a bag where you deposit a money, right? And you'll get the value in terms of interest rate. I see the same is playing with the Hex. So again, yeah. So if you see the supply or market cap or buy and sell walls, I see EHEX is more valuable than Pulsex. Right now, it might be gone to 10x. And do you know how much dollars it took to pump that much? And how much do you think to pump the same excess on EHEX? And hundreds of billions of hex been sacrificed for Pulse and Pulsex. Everything got wiped from the market, right? It just still stayed in the sacrifice wallet. It is not going to come back again.
Anything can happen in crypto. The worst coin ever can go up, right? I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm not saying EX can't perform. What I'm saying is we do have a kind of a smaller community, and we have multiple Richard Hart assets right now, and people are personally putting more of their buys into anything except EHEX.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. My point is also same. Everybody is trying to buy except EHEX. So where the sell pressure is going to be?
Anybody who got their copy can sell EHEX and just take cash out, and then they could keep their
that's what,
Pulsechain Hex.
Right. So that's what happened until one year, close to 1 year, right, till now. So that is where I'm coming to the same point. So everybody hopped into other than EHEX, but I see there's still utility for that. There's still a community base for that, and still influencers talking about EHEX, not Pulse or Inc or anything, right? Even the influencers like TMG or DIY and Ben Armstrong. So it's just starting, and everybody's talking at it at a cent, not at $1 or 50 cents, right? Everybody started talking right now at the bottom. So what happens when there is less liquidity and less supply and less sell pressure? So even after this, after RH tweet like this, right? So it dropped only 50% because it is finding the base.
They emergency end stake. So that's what I'm looking forward to. After 2030, or if they ES all their T shares, then I'm going to see what's the how valuable EX is. Because right now there's a lot of people that did not cash out their EX yet, and they might also prefer to keep their Pulsechain Hex but liquidate their EX. I don't know. I want to see that hand play out because I'm not a big player compared to that hand. It's a big hand.
So basically, at around a cent to a quarter of a cent, it's just still hovering around from 1 year, right? So that's why I'm calling it as a base, because the longer period it is staying over there. So that is where the buyers are buying in that particular range, and it did more than 99% drop. So like still, who are there to sell? Like only the core hexagons and the one who put their moon bag money into the hex.
I
So
don't know if you understand this, but there's all the hex that's staged right now is about 60 billion. Okay. 20% of that is OA. So you've got about 12 billion off on 60 is 48 billion hex. Now there's going to be yield to be earned for the next odd years. So it's going to be more than 48 billion hex that needs to be sold on Ethereum. And I don't know if the liquidity pool is going to be built up enough to support that. And if it isn't, and if people do want to cash out anything, then this price at 0.005, it's a fake price because the sellers aren't even able to sell yet, right? Like this price, yeah, it could go to a penny again. I don't know. But the point is, when those 48 billion hex get out of the system, where is it going to go? Is it going to go up or down? That's my big question mark. Why I've been hesitant to purchase EHEX or onboard anybody into EHEX until that event happens.
basically, let's
Yeah,
say
at that point, we need the Fed to help us. We need to be at like $5 trillion crypto.
yeah, why not? Like we did 80 billion, right? Last bull cycle, where it's around 1/10 of, 10% of the Bitcoin did, right? So why can't now? Because a lot of them got wiped out. And if you see, so right now the liquidity very less than $5 million. If you compared with Inc, I talked about Inc, when it is trading under $1, I was screaming to people to buy it. So nobody, when you see my profile, there is maybe 1 or 2 likes for all the Inc tweets. Now where it is trading now, like 25x from the bottom. So at that time, the liquidity was around $5 million for each, like for Pulse and $5 million with the Pulsex pair. Now liquidity, it pumped to $60 million each pair.
110. Yeah,
120
it's right, sitting at
combined.
about 100
Nice.
116 million. So this is the question: if you think you're going to cash out $1 million out of EX, how is 1,000 people going to be able to do that? We need a bigger liquidity pool, but I don't see any early hexagons building up large liquidity pools for EX, and that's an issue. Like with Inc, I can see, wow, I could literally cash out 100, 500,000. Somebody just cashed out $1 million. The liquidity pools are still healthy. So that tells me Inc can make me a millionaire, right?
No,
EHEX, I don't see it, right? I don't see cashing out $1 million on EHEX right now.
no.
I just don't. Unless
So
people provide liquidity, it's not going to happen.
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to say. So initially, Inc went from $80 to 40 cents, right? And nobody was buying over there because it's inflationary. There is no utility, and the whole liquidity, it's around 8 million roughly. And so how it got pumped, even though Rackham, he held around a $500,000 to $1 million Inc at the time. At the bottom at 40 cents and $8 million liquidity, how it pumped 25x, and now liquidity increased to 25x, and the floor was 40 cents. And so who is buying there? So you cannot see the bids. So the person who is buying is magic. So I believe it's RH or somebody. The same person creates a floor price for every asset, and even though liquidity is less, and if you see right now, like there is around $1 million liquidity, and it dumped to 50%, but still I see the same liquidity in the each side, and whenever it's going to a 0.005, there's a strong buyers until now. Not sure if it happens in future, but right now there are strong buyers at 0.005. So that's what you cannot see everything under the woods. So right now you can see only this much liquidity, but we never know whether those 40 billion EHEX holders going to sell or not, because it dropped 99%, right? More than 99%. So I don't see that much sell volume now. So even the same thing happened for ADA, Cardano, and some other like ETHLend. Everything dropped 99%, more than 99%, and it crashed the all-time high. The same thing, I'm feeling that it's going to happen here. So if in pump 25x from bottom with no utility and only the mass
Okay,
inflation,
what if the pulse chain hex goes up?
it's
Like,
already
what if
going up.
all the gains are just pulse chain hex? What if that one goes up to $1 while you're sitting with the other one at a penny? How are you gonna feel? So it's
Ooh.
better to have one go to $1 and one stay at a penny. You know what I mean? Or less than a penny. Like, what if EX goes to
But
0.0003,
wouldn't it drag
but
it
then the
up though a
pulse
little
chain
bit? Even
hex
if the ratio
goes to a penny?
expands, like wouldn't it drag it up a little bit? So if it's a penny, I mean, if it's $1, wouldn't it at least take it to like 10, and then the ratio is like 10-1?
I know, but we've been killing that ratio. Like, we dropped 12 to 1 on that ratio. It was 3 to 1 EHEX. Now we're 0.25 to 1. Maybe we go to, like what you said, ID. Maybe we go to 10 to 1, right? 10 to 1, then you're looking at 10 cents. I mean, but what if it can't sustain 10-cent
Yeah.
price because there's not enough buyers?
I used
No
to
matter
have
what you
that
do, 10
debate, you
cent
know,
X
with
is
whom?
pretty
I
high.
used to have that debate with Walrus back in the chat, because he used to talk that, all right, well, hex EP hex could go to a couple of dollars, and I was like, well, one of the two has to be, you know, either we don't go up that high and then we're stuck where we are now, you know, which we are at this ratio, 2 pennies, 1 penny, 2 penny, 1 penny, or then one of the two had to go super low and for the other one to keep going high. So it's, and of course I wasn't expecting what the farm did, the way the farm paired them. That was interesting.
So you think this upgrade that they're having, what's this, the Duncan upgrade in what coming up on it will make the gas fees cheaper? I'm hearing it might just be for the L2, so I
No.
don't know.
I have no expectation from Vitalik. I mean, I've been hearing about 2.0 since like 2016. So I have like
Right.
absolutely no expectation from him and fixing this and make it,
Just remember
you know,
though, what
yeah.
if Ethereum ever does something great, Pulse Chain can copy it, basically, right? So if it helps them, it'll help the Hex on Pulse Chain. It'll be even better. So that's the counterpoint. Like, yeah, maybe someday Ethereum Hex gets usable from a gas fee standpoint, but you have to. It's not just gas fees; it's buyers. So you split the buyer base, and EHEX PX. So you got so I have to choose now which one I support. And then if most people choose not to buy the one or the other, then that's the market choosing. It's partially it's because of gas fee, but it's also just because we physically can't buy. Like, you could cut your money in half, I guess, and buy half of each, but the community didn't do that. And then do you want to onboard somebody onto Ethereum Hex? That was my first question, was what am I going to tell people that I talk to? Am I going to put them at risk? Because I have stakes that are, they're going to bleed out probably because, hey, I put in $3,000 into a hex stake. It's probably going to go to zero. So that's a lot of money. Like, asking somebody to put in 3,000 in, this is the first investment they make in crypto. Put in $3,000. Okay, put in $3,000 into EX. They did it. They did 5,000. If that is going to zero, it's already happened, and maybe it'll recover. But the point is, I've experienced that, so now I'm really hesitant to tell anybody to stake
Right.
over on EX or use it, regardless of whether it works out. It's
Yeah, I have an
it's a
answer for that.
speculative asset. It's speculative. It's more like a trade coin, and I would recommend trading it on pulsex.com if you want to do a trade, because give us some fees.
Or think about what happened in 21 too. You know, like when it was 20, the Gwei went crazy in 2021. So anyone that was doing strategies of 3 months, 9 months, 1 year, less than 50,000 units, less than 500,000 units, I mean, all of a sudden it went crazy. So all of a sudden, if you weren't staking more than 100 T shares, it was done. Like you
And
could,
staking long doesn't help the problem. It makes it worse, actually. So short staking is your only hope on EHEX if in those times or these times, if you care about gas fees. Because think about it, the longer you stake, that's not going to save you. It's
because
going
of
to
the
add.
calculations, I know
The
what you mean.
calculation adds every day. So a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'll just put it out there further," and it's like, wait, you're adding more ETH every single day to that fee. It's probably
I
gonna.
guess you're right.
So
You're
if
right. You
anything, you
still
would
need
think
to balance it.
EX would be a short staking chain, and then Pulse Chain would be a longer staking chain. Is that would seem correct? I mean, some people could use the party, like the whole, okay, we'll stake together and do that, but I haven't seen like a huge community rally around it, right, on EX to say let's all join together and
Right.
stake
It's just
together.
like the only debate that we had back then was like, what if what if 50-80% of that number that you gave earlier, that 60 billion, what if like a big chunk of that, instead of staying in EHEX, moved to PX, and then the APY on EHEX were to blow up that much, so anyone that was making 20, 30, now we're making 40, 50 APY. That was the only other way that I remember thinking, all right, well, that will
Yeah.
incentivize people.
It's possible if it's 100%, but the problem is, like, if you're earning 100% of 0.000 something, it's still
Yep.
$10, and people think in dollars actually. So you want to cash out dollars? Well, you're actually making more money on Pulsechain than you are on Ethereum. Period. And I think most people look at it in dollars, even though it's cool to think about it in T-shares. Like, when it comes down to it, people are saying like, "Wow, I put in $500. I cashed out 10,000. That's
Gotcha.
dollar bills." So
I
yeah, the
still
yield
do
could
it
be
that way
less, but
because
the
we have.
dollars could be more. So they're going to grab dollars.
Yeah, on our side, it's just like the original days. Like we had so little metrics to use and so little tools that we had to almost use it that way. And at one point, we were getting paid like it was like 4 zeros hex. So you needed to
And it was 2
stake.
hex. Yeah, it was 2 hex or 3 hex.
Exactly.
And 2 hex on 0.003 or something. So it was like you weren't getting paid anything.
Exactly.
Basically.
$1. It was $1. Like I remember at one point we would get like if you had 100 T-shares and you were getting a penny hex, and then a penny total, then you would get $1, and then after a year you're like, all right, well I was going to make 300 something dollars per year, and I thought that was a good deal but then it went, it blew up. It went to prices. I didn't think Hex was going to do the prices. That's why I was staking the way I did. Like a lot of people think I was like so smart. I was like, nope. It was just at that point, if you wanted to lock up at least $1 a day, you needed to lock up 100 T-shirts.
Man, I just hope this thing recovers. I'm so deep.
Oh, well.
I'm so.
Jerome Powell has our back. Like we're valuing everything on dollars, and then the dollar's going. It's going down. They're debasing the dollar. So us being in an asset away from fiat, yeah.
No, like the EHEX, I had so much in there. I'm just, I'm like, man.
Here. I have a couple of coins over there.
You like, so if you had like liquid EHEX, there was a way to still, because I didn't figure out how to bridge it over to the Pulsechain side. That's pretty much what most people did, bridge over their liquid EHEX to Pulsechain, if that makes sense.
So obviously, the
bridge,
quickest way to do this would
the bridge takes it in.
Hey guys, if you're stuck and you're wanting to convert, the quickest way to do this is just buy wrapped pulse on the ETH side, and then you can convert some pulse on the Pulsechain side for Ethereum, or for Hex. You can get a really quick conversion, and you'll still have wrapped pulse on the ETH side, but then you can exchange and get your Hex really quick versus paying the bridge fees and all that and trying to fight with everyone else. It's just a quick strategy if you're wanting to convert. Remember, it was all free, man. You got a free copy on the other side, guys. So I think it'll be good for us all long term anyway. I think we'll see that dollar, those candles lit this year for sure.